Hey, everybody. Welcome back. We are here. Beelzebub's Tales to His Grandson. Last chapter, chapter 48, part 4. Let's see if we can get it all done today. Only 30 pages left. Let's see if I can not go on tangents, hey? Welcome to everyone in chat. Welcome to everyone in the future, of course, but in chat we got Tyler, we got Ghoul, another guy, Kimberly's here. All the other usuals will be rolling in, I'm sure. If you're watching this in the future, and you feel like supporting the channel, consider going into the description and giving a one-time donation via PayPal. Or subscribing to the Coffee account. Through the Coffee account would be better, I guess, but anyway, you can also become a YouTube member. Pee-pee poo-poo, something something, plug the channel. Let's get into it, guys. Let's get into it. Oh, don't worry, Kimberly. It's not gonna end. We're gonna have another book study. I'm immediately gonna start another book after this. That's right. This is my salesman pitch voice. Another guy. Now, last week we were talking exactly. Boys gotta eat. Boys gotta eat, Tyler. Now, last week we were talking about how no one understands each other, or specifically people just make up nonsense in their head. For many man who has become aware of this to some degree, he has learned more or less how to observe this tragicomic feast of sound, particularly sharply constated and made evident when others join the conversation of two contemporary people. Yes, a man cannot subsist on hydrogen alone, Tyler. I need shekels to survive. Now, I believe we read past this. I'll just read it again. Each of them puts his own subjective sense into all the words that have become gravity center words in the said symphony of words without content. And to the ear of this impartial observer, it is all perceived only as what is called in the ancient Sino-Kulupnianian tales of the 1001 Nights, cacophonous fantastic nonsense. So people don't use, the whole kind of shtick of this that he was talking about was people don't use words properly, that when they use words they put their own subjective meaning to them, but then also when people hear them, they apply their own subjective meaning to them as well. So it's like the first person isn't even using words correctly, and then the person who receives them isn't even hearing them correctly. It's like two layers of preconceptions before the truth can even arise. AKA yapping. Exactly, George, exactly. It's not just the yapping, it's the internal yapping. So it's like when you listen to someone, you have to understand that they have their own internal yap, and then you have your also an internal yap. And it's like, this is like a double layer of problems. Because you can say like, oh, a person has their own subjective sense, and maybe you can calculate against that, but you also have to realize you have your own subjective sense. So it's like being double, you have to have this double take to really get to the bottom of something. Another guy asks, next book will be Manly P. Hall's Secret Teachings of All Ages, right? Yes, it will. You know what's crazy? Let's just go on a tangent. I was looking up a good PDF to get for for the future live streams, and I was like, if you just type Secret Teachings of All Ages PDF into Google, you know what happens? You know what the first site is? It better come up now. Oh yeah, okay. Second site was the first site before. CIA.gov gives a free PDF of the Secret Teachings of All Ages, and I'm like, what? Why is the CIA into occultism? That's so weird. Huh. Anyway, not gonna say anything about that. I just found that really hilarious. Back to Beelzebub's Tales, by the way. Ollie in the chat says, is this the finale? Are we still going? We're still going, bro. I've been moving cross-country and behind since the last live was on. Hit that Agrippa 3 book. Yeah, Agrippa's on the list. We got to get through some others before we do that, though. I mean, Manly P. Hall's Secret Teachings is over 100 years, so it should also have lapsed. Oh, should also have lapsed copyright. Anyway. All things aside, Let's also, I think it's interesting that Gurdjieff mentioned, yeah, that's right, we're getting back into Gurdjieff now. I think it's also interesting that Gurdjieff has mentioned 1001 Nights. I think the books that Gurdjieff mentions in this book also are relevant to the fourth way. Like, there's some kind of, he mentions Mullah Nasruddin. He doesn't necessarily mention, like, a book, but it's like, the Mullah Nasruddin is a folk kind of, there's lots of folk tales that you can have kind of compiled. You can find compiled folk tales of Mullah Nasruddin. It's almost like he's indicating to that, and in 1001 Nights also has some kind of wisdom in it. I mean, 1001 Nights is where Aladdin comes from. So, Gurdjieff pro-Disney, confirmed. But yeah, no, the tale of the genies, the genie in the ring, the genie in the lamp, all of that stuff is found in 1001 Nights. So there's, I don't know, he's basically saying it has wisdom in it. Don't just take it as children's fairy tales. There is actually some use there, which is interesting. Oh my god, not the CIA in chat. Bruh, who is this? Someone signed up. Someone signed into a channel called Not the CIA and commented in chat being like, oh, that's strange. Bruh. And it's not Dylan, because Songbird has, like, just commented as well. So I'm like, who's the crazy guy? Who's the crazy guy? That's hilarious. That is hilarious. I don't know on the chances of a CIA channel just happening to be watching me while I mentioned that. That is crazy. Hilarious. Anyway, getting back. Conversing in this fashion. So Gurdjieff is talking. A black woman is speaking. Let's listen. Conversing in this fashion, contemporary people, nevertheless, imagine. They understand one another and are certain that they are conveying their thoughts to each other. God damn. Some guy with a noisy car. This guy, I swear to God, lives on my street, and he, like, drives the noisiest cars early in the morning, and then late at night, you'll hear him, like, rev down the street, and I'm like, bruh. Anyway. Sounds like a lifted truck. It's, I think it's like a Mustang. It's one of those, it's like an old muscle car. Like, it's this bright metallic blue color as well. Really weird. Anyway, he's got that one and another car that's like a white car that makes the same kind of sound. But yeah, he revs. Anyway. We, on the other hand, relying upon a mass of indisputable data, because remember, Gurdjieff is talking about the indispensability of creating a new language, or creating a work language, so people who do the work can speak to each other and actually understand what each other are saying. So this is where we left off, guys. This is where we left off. It's all coming back now. We, on the other hand, relying upon a mass of indisputable data confirmed by psychophysico-chemical experiments, categorically affirm that as long as contemporary people remain as they are, that is to say, average people, NPCs, they will never, whatever they may be talking about among themselves, and particularly if the subject be abstract, understand the same notions by the same words, nor will they ever actually comprehend one another. This is why you don't talk mysticism, and this is why you need to find someone who can talk #deep, or else they can't, real recognizes real. You can't, like, if someone's just an NPC normie man, and they're just really into life, you can kind of, I feel like there's some topics, like if you talk about death, or maybe if you talk about the paranormal, some people who, like, get squeamish about death, but some people will like to talk about ghosts or something, you can kind of almost find an esoteric topic, but it's like, finding someone at a party who's also esoteric has always been a bane of existence. It can be tough, but most normies, a lot of normies, you can't even talk about that stuff, but if you find internet schizos, man, it's hard, because, like, then with internet schizos, they go straight to, like, the absolute and talking about Kabbalah and conspiracy theories, and you're like, bro, too fast. Let's ground ourselves for a second. Now, but we're all, let's get some higher being bodies first, man. Hey, Nulu in the chat, welcome. Or straight to the New Age slop, yeah, exactly. Ugh. That's the disappointing when you think you found someone who's like deep, and then they're like, "Oh, Deepak Chopra, he's amazing," and you're like, oh. Hey, our tuition, welcome. Now, this is why, in the contemporary average man, every inner experience, and even every painful experience, which engenders mentation and which has obtained logical results, which might in other circumstances be very beneficent to those round about, is not manifested outwardly, but is only transformed into, so to say, an enslaving factor for himself. Interesting. Wait a second. What do average people do? Average people take every inner experience, but every painful experience, which engenders mentation, be very beneficent to those round about, is not manifested outwardly, but is only transformed into what they can say an enslaving factor for himself. So what does that mean? I feel like this means something like, say something happens to a person, it's a painful experience, which causes them to reflect. But instead of this creating an outward change, it just creates an enslaving factor. Or, I can't believe they said that to me. It just kind of creates another internal, what do you call it, cycle that just burns up more hydrogen in them or something. I feel like that's what he's getting at in this paragraph there. That was a bit of an odd way to say it. Man, I thought it would be easier. Yeah, it's something like victim mentality. That's what it feels like. I thought it would be easier now that the main story's over and go just talking normally, but that was tough understanding that. Thanks to this, even the isolation of the inner life of each individual man is increased, and as a consequence, what is called the mutual instruction, so necessary to people's collective existence, is always more and more destroyed. Huh. So thanks to the isolation, so people become like incel chuds, and they're just isolated and they live in their mind, is increased, and as a consequence of what is called mutual instruction, so necessary for people. Mutual, so people cease to learn things off of each other and they just become completely isolated, and the social fabric continues to decay. Cul-de-sac people indeed. Owing to the loss of the capacity to ponder and reflect, whenever the contemporary average man hears or employs in conversation any word with which he is familiar, only by its consonants, he does not pause to think, nor does there even arise in him any question as to what exactly is meant by this word, he having already decided once and for all, both that he knows it and that others know it too. So that's just another level of that internal subjectivity and external subjectivity he's bringing forth again. I feel like this is like Gurdjieff's reflections on Twitter. He's looking at people arguing on Twitter, and it's like, you don't even... Not only do they not understand what they're saying, but the person they're arguing with doesn't understand what the person, like, they are themselves saying, and then someone's arguing with them, and they, like, it's just like this. People don't even know what they're saying, and they don't know what the other person's saying, and they just think everyone else is wrong, and it's just... That's just how it goes. That's Twitter, baby. A question, perhaps, or it's bots. It's just bots. Perhaps does sometimes arise in him when he hears an entirely... And it's not just that people argue. It's that they argue without reflection. It's like, you don't know what you're talking about. It's like you didn't even take the time to really understand what they were trying to say. When he hears an entirely unfamiliar word for the first time, but in this case, he is content merely to substitute for the unfamiliar word another suitable word of familiar consonants, and then to imagine that he has understood it. This is really interesting because it's also like, I feel there's also a kind of person who looks at someone else and just says they used a big word to be pretentious, and that's their logic for not, they deliberately don't understand another person because they're just like, oh, you're just trying to be pretentious or something, or muddy the waters to seem deep. And it's like, but when you talk about something that's abstract, you either have to talk either semi-poetically or you have to get really technical, which requires new language to be made. And people who just want things to be, you know, basic and simple as, just reductionist materialism, simple as. Just closing that window. It's like, it just goes over their head. They just substitute all the words out. It's like, no, you're just complicating something. Or maybe just basic, you know, religious people. Just accept Jesus, bro. It's simple as. I wonder how many good thinkers have wasted their potential on Twitter brain rot. Too many. Too many. Yeah, exactly, chat, exactly. To bring home what has just been said, an excellent example is provided by the word so often used by every contemporary man, world. This is interesting. It's also because the world is the last tarot card and this is the last chapter. He could have used any word. He could have said universe, he could have said cosmos, but he says world. If people knew how to grasp for themselves what passes in their thoughts when they hear or use the word world, then most of them would have to admit, if of course they intended to be sincere, that the word carries no exact notion whatever for them, catching by ear simply the accustomed consonants, the meaning of which they assume that they know. It is as if they say to themselves, ah, world, I know what that is, and serenely go on thinking. Should one deliberately arrest their attention on this word and know how to probe them to find just what they understand by it? They will at first be plainly, as is said, embarrassed, but quickly pulling themselves together, that is to say, quickly deceiving themselves and recalling the first definition of the word that comes to mind. They will then offer it as their own, although, in fact, they had not thought of it before. Crowley, question mark? I don't know. What's Crowley got to do with that? If one has the requisite power and could compel a group of contemporary people, even from among those who have received, so to say, a good education, in inverted commas, to state exactly how they each understand the word world, they would all so beat about the bush that involuntarily one would recall even castor oil with a certain tenderness, lol. For instance, one of them, who among other things had read up a few books in astronomy, would say that the world is an enormous number of suns surrounded by planets situated at colossal distances from each other and together forming that we call the Milky Way, beyond which, at immeasurable distances and beyond the limits of spaces accessible to our investigation, are presumably other constellations and other worlds. Ah, okay. Another interested in contemporary physics would speak of the world as a systematic evolution of matter, beginning with the atom and winding up with the very largest aggregates such as planets, suns. Perhaps he would refer to the theory of the similitude of the world of atoms and the electrons and the world of suns and planets, and so on in the same strain. One who for some reason or other had made a hobby of philosophy and read all the mishmash on the subject would say that the world is only the product of the subjective picturings and imaginings, and that our Earth, for example, with its mountains and seas, its vegetable and animal kingdoms, is a world of appearances, an illusory world. This is Gurdjieff dunking on idealists, Lamau. A man acquainted with the latest theories of polydimensional space, would say that the world is usually looked upon as an infinite three-dimensional sphere. But that, in reality, a three-dimensional world as such cannot exist and is only an imagined cross-section of another fourth-dimensional world, out of which comes and into which goes everything proceeding around us. A man whose worldview is founded on the dogmas of religion would say that the world is everything existing, visible and invisible, created by God and depending on his will. Our life is the visible world. In the visible world is brief, but the invisible world where man receives reward or punishment for all his acts during his sojourn in the visible world, life is eternal. One bitten with spiritualism would say that side by side with the visible world, there exists also another, a world of the beyond, and that communication has already been established with the beings populating this world of the beyond. A fanatic of theosophy would go still further and say, dunking on the theosophists again, I see, the seven worlds exist interpenetrating each other and composed of more and more rarefied matter and so on. In short, not a single contemporary man would be able to offer a single definite notion, exact or all acceptances of the real meaning of the world, of the word world. Bleh. Tongue-tied. Amun-Ra in the chat, honest question, is this a Masonic channel or related? I mean, I like talking about Rosicrucianism, so it's related, I guess. Is Gurdjussi really dunking on them, says another guy. Just seems like he is explaining different... Yeah. I mean, Gurdjieff had certain opinions about Blavatsky, but, yeah. I think he has some contention about the secret doctrine. There's one line Ouspensky recounts, because Ouspensky read The Secret Doctrine as well and asked Gurdjieff about it, and Gurdjieff said something like, yes, it took me years to unlearn what she taught me. So he had some contention with her, despite, I guess, drawing from her on some level. If one world penetrates another as a new world born, asked Kimberly. No, so when he said that he's just referencing the theosophical idea of kind of dimensions. So like the physical world, etheric world, astral world, mental world. And like, the mental world and the astral world are two different worlds. But they overlay and overlap without interpenetrate, without mixing. They're two distinct things. That thing. Oh, you're just joking? Okay, fine. Maybe someone else will find that explanation helpful. I wonder what his opinion would have been on quantum physics. Makes me wonder as well. It's interesting, a lot of academic science, like post-World War II, has been, since, recently we've all heard about string theory. There's a lot of sussy baka stuff about, science and the academy, and, are people making shit up just to keep their jobs kind of thing. So maybe he would have had a not very popular opinion about quantum physics and astrophysics and whatnot. Now, the whole psychic inner life of the average man is nothing, and it's interesting, Gurdjieff dissed all of these people for their use of the word world, but he didn't give his explanation. So it leaves us to wonder. Gurdjie, what's in your Gurdjussi? What is he hiding? What is Gurdjie hiding? What's Gurdjieff's idea of the world? We live in a world of sussy buckers. Thank you, another guy. The whole psychic inner life of average man now is nothing but an automatized contact of 2 or 3 series of associations previously perceived by him of impressions, fixed under the action of some impulse then arisen in him in all the 3 heterogeneous localizations or brains contained in him. When the associations begin to act anew, that is to say, when the repetition of corresponding impressions appears, they begin to constate under the influence of some inner or outer accidental shock, that in another localization the homogeneous impressions evoked by them begin to be repeated. That's interesting. Very interesting. So he's talking about just the internal mechanism, the internal mechanality of your average man. Because it seems, because the whole thing with the average man is they're not the 4th man, they're not the balanced man, so they don't use all of their centers at the same time. It's not just that the centers are balanced. A 4th man can actually kind of use all the centers at the same time as well. A proper 4th man of the highest degree. Man 1, 2, and 3 will only use one center, so to speak, so when an idea comes, they don't feel it and act it, or feel it in their body, you know. It just goes into the intellectual cylinder, and then another idea will come, and then they can compare and contrast. So the impression doesn't hit the entire being, it just hits one aspect of them. And it seems like he's saying when a shock happens, an accidental shock, just like another localization, so another center may activate, but it's only going to just repeat previously untransformed impressions, basically. Feel it, smell it, breathe it, see the gurjussy in your 3rd eye. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, exactly, our tuition. He's popping balloons, but not inflating one himself. Classic move. Yeah, I like that. All the particularities of the worldview of the ordinary man and the characteristic features of his individuality ensue and depend on the sequence of the impulse proceeding in him at the moment of the perception of new impressions, also on the automatism established for the arising of the process of the repetition of those impressions. Yeah, because he's only on one center, and just impressions come in, and it's only processed via one center. And you know, he processes an impression, it goes into him, and if a new impression comes in, it sometimes brings up some old ones, and they just get kind of processed via one center. And so nothing, what is he saying? All particularities of the worldview depend on the sequence of the impulse proceeding in him at that moment. So depending on what his internal state is like as well. Also, if an impression hits him, even if it's like the truth, if the truth hits him while his internal while an internal process is coming on, he may not see it for what it is. Very interesting. So I've just got some stuff on my screen here. This is the danger of being too automatic. It's like, old occultists have a lot of, not very nice opinions sometimes. And when you read that, if you read that with a prejudice that you have of a modern day person, you can easily go, oh, this individual is just bigoted. Like, Gurdjieff didn't like homosexuals, and then throw all his books in the bin, and it's like, you're kind of missing the point, bro. It's like you have something proceeding in you, you have to suspend your natural reaction and just see it as it is. Let it soak over you. Autism? Is this why we should drive manuals? Exactly. Manual car driving master race. None of those autistic automatic people. Depend on the sequence. Another guy. Oh, you son of a bitch. Bruh, bringing all those Lord of Mystery references in here. Oh, no, that's actually, another guy says, what about that one book you showed that had a rune magic system, but the author is a massive racist? Yeah. So Arnaldo Kumar Siegfried, is that, no, yeah, something like that. It's like, His last name was like Siegfried? No, maybe his middle name, Arnaldo Siegfried Kummer or something. Yeah, that's right. I'm pretty sure that's the guy. Let me just double check that. Siegfried? Hello? Testing 1, 2, 3? Ooh, I'm not sure what happened there. Are we back? I think I hit a little... Okay, that wire there is getting a little out of control. No, I think it's just a little... The wire on my microphone just kind of became a little popped out. Sorry, what were we talking about? Where were we? Did we drop out at my rant about Kummer? So the whole thing is rune magic. I was mentioning another guy mentioned the racist rune master. So the whole thing is if you have certain things within you, it's like you could read this guy and be like, see his racism and just be like, disgusting, and throw a book in the bin, but then you would miss everything good he has to say. And it's one of those things like, oh, you mean a racist has something good to say? It's like, that right there is the problem. You need to be able to suspend whatever natural reaction you have and extract whatever wisdom you can out. So that's actually a good example, because he's got a kick-ass book on rune magic if you're into rune magic, but you kind of have to bear with his personality. And so it's this thing, it's like you being like, oh no, I don't want to do that, I don't want to learn from racists or something, I don't want to learn from someone who's a Kanye West fan. It's like, bruh, all you're doing is cock-blocking yourself in the end. All you're doing is submitting to your own mechanism, your own automatism. You think you're moral, but your morality is actually just an automatic process that's been put into you. So you have to... And that's the problem. That's what Nietzsche says, about most morals. Most morals, people aren't really good. They just accept whatever moral society gives them. And when society is in when society is in a state of suspense, like when wars happen, that morality just goes, and the beast within is just unleashed. And then it's like, when all society is gone, and morality has lifted, and the beast comes out, who are the people who, can resist that beast? Who are the people who still stand upright? Those are the truly good guys, if you think about it. Not just the people who drink lattes and be like, I'm a good person. Yeah, sure you are, bro. Calm down. Crystal Kummer, what are you guys even talking about? Anyway. And it is this that explains the incongruity always observed, even by the average man during his passive state, in the several associations having nothing in common which simultaneously flow within him. So we're not in an active state, we're in a passive state. It feels like we're active because it's like, I feel offended by what you just said. That's active, right? It's like, no, that's passive. You're just reacting against impressions hitting against you. My hat offends people. They don't even read it. It's like, read it properly. It's like, oh, it's just a joke. Yeah, exactly. Are the pacifists the good guys then? No, The people who are the good guys are the people who can face the beast within and choose to do something else. So people who face the beast within either submit to the beast or they give in to nihilism. Symbols so easily trigger people, for real. There are no good guys in 40k. Exactly. What joke wasn't funny? Anyway. Now, the said impressions in the common presence of a man are perceived owing. My hat. I've been wearing this for a long time, but self-dribbling basketball. That's binary thinking, though. What's binary thinking? We're all MAGA. Left and right, no middle path. No, the middle path is the thing. It's like, so there's the beast within, you give into nihilism or you give into the beast. That's binary thinking. Finding the middle path is the correct path. Or finding the actual path. Okay, I get you self-dribbling basketball. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. Sorry to deceive you for this long. I'm not actually a based groiper. I'm just an alchemist. I need to get one that says, like... Oh, what was the other thing someone was saying? Oh, fuck, I forgot it. I was thinking of another, like, MAGA hat, an esoteric MAGA hat to make, and it was pretty funny. I just forgot it anyway. I gotta be self-remembering more. I'm a bad boy. Now, where the hell are we, guys? Where the hell are we? Tangents aside. And it is this that explains the incongruity always observed, even by the average man during his passive state. In the several associations having nothing in common. Yeah, that's right. The said impressions in the common presence of a man are perceived owing to the three, as it were, apparatuses in him, as these are apparatuses in general, in the presences of all animals, acting as perceivers for all the seven, what are called planetary gravity center vibrations. Oh my god, did Gurdjieff reference chakras? Oh my god. This is the first time I've ever heard Gurdjieff mention chakras. It's blown me away. Alchemy First with Richard Fuentes. Oh my god, that's hilarious. That is hilarious. I wonder if I can, like, make a joke out of that online. Thank you, Nulu. I'll think about that. So we've unlocked chakras now. What's he going to say about them? So he's saying, hold on a second. He's saying impressions come in to the common presences of man and are received by the three apparatuses, but received onto, yeah, the three, as it were, apparatuses in him, which I assume he says intellect, emotion, and motor, right? Those are the apparatuses. But he also says acting as perceivers are the seven what are called planetary center vibrations. So this is the idea that the chakras are like sensors of the astral body. Okay, let's see. But is that what he's saying? Let's see what he says. The structure of these perceived apparatuses is the same in all the parts of the mechanism. They consist in adaptions, recalling clean wax phonograph discs. On these discs, or as they might otherwise be called reels, interesting, all the impressions received begin to be recorded from the first days after the appearance of a man in the world, and even before, during the period of his formation in his mother's womb. So this is interesting. So this is something he's talking about, like a recording device. So what he means is, like, imagine a reel of film that just starts recording all the impressions you ever perceive, and it gets put inside you. But he's saying there's 7 of them. So is he meaning the chakras? Because the way he's describing this is comparable to the concept found in Max Heindel's Rosicrucian school, where Max Heindel talks about the four ethers. So we know etheric energy, but Max Heindel classes and says there's four variations of etheric energy. The chemical ether, which is kind of connects to processes within your body, within your endocrine glands. The ether of life, which is literally your life force. So think of like your Jing in Taoism or something. And then he says there's luminous ether and reflective ether. Luminous ether controls your senses. So if you lose luminous ether, you go blind. But if you have a surplus of luminous ether, perhaps like your vision can extend. So someone with really good eyesight has a lot of luminous ether within them. But then reflective ether has to do with memory, but not just memory. It also has within you the reflective ether. You usually ether, like the chemical ether and the ether of life, when you die, it just dissipates. The reflective ether stays with you from life to life to life. So it's, Max Heindel says this is like a superior ether, which when you die, it's absorbed into your astral body. And then when your kind of essence is deposited into a new physical vessel in the womb, the old reflective ether comes down and starts recording more stuff, more impressions. Outtuition says, forgive my gaps in knowledge, but does Gurdjieff delve into astrology at all? What is his takes on it? No, he doesn't. He doesn't seem to have a high opinion on it. And I'm not sure if that's because he never studied it, or he seems to just do other things. Like with, astrology as a tool of psychology. Instead, Gurdjieff uses the enneagram types or personality types. Or he uses that at one point, but then he has different ways to identify different types of people. And at the same time, it's like I think he disapproves, and this is hard because around the time Gurdjieff was around, people were trying to revive astrology, but it had been dead for quite a while, and so people were kind of making shit up, if I can be honest. It's only in recent times, I think in the 70s, there was the Hindsight Project, where like one guy knew Arabic, one guy knew Latin, and one guy knew ancient Greek, and they started translating all the old astrology texts. And this is where you get people online, like there's the traditional astrologists and the New Age astrologists fight each other on Twitter. Astrology Twitter is actually very interesting. And so, but it's one of those things, it's like, what is Gurdjieff reacting to? He's not reacting to astrology, he's reacting to that New Age kind of intuitional, why is Uranus connected to Aquarius? You know why? Because what is it, I forgot his name, Leo something, in freaking the 1930s was just like, I feel this to be true, and like just did that, and it's now a thing in modern astrology. They have just kind of put a whole bunch of kind of stuff together, or connected a bunch of things, moved houses around, put attributes on houses that weren't usually there in the past, and they tried to fill in the gaps as best they can with intuition, but you can criticize it very easily. And I think Gurdjieff was critiquing the astrology of his day. I'm not sure what he would say about astrology now, but the astrology of his day, he didn't regard that very highly. But there's this theory of celestial influences in Gurdjieff's doctrine. Like, he totally thinks planets have effects on people, like cosmic energies and cosmic rays. Even in this book, he talks about how when a mountain is too high on the planet Earth, it messes with something in the atmosphere, which, because of the Trogo auto-egocratic influence, like sends rays to the distant galaxies wrong, and then like there needs to be some surplus that comes back, and it messes with the whole universe. And the whole reason why that happens is because of our tectonic plates are messed up, which is what happened because of the Kunda buffer and like an ancient Atlantis falling, and it's all connected. It's all connected, etc., etc., etc. I just like how he spins it on its side. Lol. Oh, nice. Oh, yeah, is that Uranus? Okay, yeah. Nulu asks, is that why a lot of people discard Western astrology and subscribe to Vedic astrology? So I think, there's always been a move to the East, but here's the problem. I think a lot of people pee and poo their brains a little bit, and they don't quite understand. So there's multiple different types of astrology, but one category of astrology is, what do they call it? Seasonal and sidereal. Seasonal astrology is connected to the seasons, fundamentally. I'm not an astrologer, so I'm going to explain this badly. If you want to go purely by what's in the sky, you got to do sidereal astrology. It's a completely different structure. And that's what Vedic astrology is. It's sidereal. Whereas the seasonal thing, I think I'm not sure if it's like your sun or your rising. It's like, it doesn't matter what's in the sky. If it's like this season, this date, it's Aries. Boom. And that's it. And the problem with seasonal astrology is people would be like, well, what's happening on the southern hemisphere? Shouldn't like then Christmas be, in July or something? And then it's like, well, people in Australia who like are born in, December or something, still feel like Capricorns and act like Capricorns. So it's like, it means that there's some higher macrocosmic structure that you just don't know about. But nonetheless, yeah, that's how I view, anyway, we're going off on a big tangent here, but that's how I kind of view a lot of people. They want it to be the stars and their calculations to be exact, and they don't understand the seasonal sidereal thing, and so they go to the Vedic stuff to learn, and they try to mix it together, but it's like, no. Western astrology, it's its own thing. It's a complete system in and of itself. You don't need to like mix it with anything. And if you mix it with stuff, inevitably it just becomes kind of like lukewarm, or like, why would you do that? Like, if you're going to mix Vedic with Western astrology, why don't you just do Vedic astrology to its highest degree? And whatever you're using Western astrology to do or say, Vedic astrology can just do it anyway. And it's the same the other way around. Western astrology doesn't need like necessarily anything extra. It's its own system, and it does specifically its own thing. Sorry, Vedic astrology is more intact throughout history. Nah, oh yeah, maybe. I get the problem with Western astrology is there's these different eras. So there's like, from Babylon to Egypt to Greece, you got Hellenic astrology, and then it kind of, through the Middle Ages, you do have this astrology that's taught, and it's connected to medicine, because the stars and the stars and the earth are connected. So there's always been this kind of like, if you're a doctor, you learn astrology. So there's kind of always been a medical astrology. The problem is in medieval time, using astrology to divine fate was a little bit with the church, because that interferes with their dogma. You're not allowed to use astrology to do that. So there's always a tension with astrology, and so it kind of got knocked down all through the Middle Ages, the Western astrology, because of the church. But then by the time the church lost power, what did gain power? The age of rationalism. And astrology, that's just superstition. Anything that reeks of superstition, you have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. So it never kind of recovered. But now we're kind of getting it back. So it's its own complete thing. All I can think of is New Age hippies talking about star signs. They ruined it exactly. And I mean, the horoscope stuff in friggin' newspapers is absolute trash. Completely trash. People see their own culture and cringe, but turn to others because they are just mysterious. Exactly. I remember someone on a Joe Rogan Experience, he was talking to like some black lady or something, and she was saying how like the same way white people will look at an Indian person in a turban and like jizz their pants, it has like a mystical effect on them. Like you just get an Eastern person, put a turban on them, and all of a sudden white people are like, oh my god, holy man. It's like she said the same way that happens, it's like white Jesus has this effect on black people. She was like, oh honey, I gotta tell you, like all the they'll be raging about the white man, and then all the houses there'll be a white Jesus on the window, and they just like pray into it. It's like white Jesus has the same effect on black people that like an Indian guy in a turban has on white people. Well, I was like, I found that hilarious. But yeah, it's like the other being mysterious is a big thing. And I'm not going to criticize everyone who does it. And there are some people who are genuine and some people who do get a lot out of it. But there's always this thing where people go to the other because it's mysterious, but they just kind of do it in a shallow way, and they become an ornamental Buddhist or an ornamental Taoist and whatever. And it's just like, bruh, you do you, I guess. Anyway, this Aussie Aquarius girl is definitely Aquarius. What are we talking about? Mine astrology is interesting. Sure it is. I have no idea about it, though. Now, let's get back to where we were before I went on a massive tangent. Consistent. Oh, yeah, sorry. Well, we're talking about ether. Bro, how did we get onto that topic? So, Gurdjieff is talking about something within you that records all of your past experiences, and it seems to be that he's connecting that to the chakras, which is interesting. Makes me wonder if memory can connect to the chakras, meaning the art of memory, doing that can awaken chakras. This could explain certain things in Western esotericism quite well. Very interesting. Now, and the separate apparatuses constituting this general mechanism possess also a certain automatically acting adaptation, owing to which newly arriving impressions, in addition to being recorded alongside those previously perceived and similar to them, are also recorded alongside those impressions perceived simultaneously with these latter. Thus, every impression experienced is inscribed in several places and on several reels. And there, on these reels, it is preserved unchanged. Interesting. Every impression experienced is inscribed in several places within the human and on several reels. So each chakra records the same impression, but perhaps tints it in a different way. Is that what he's saying? Let's see what he's saying. These impressed perceptions have such a property that from contact with homogeneous vibrations of the same quality, they, so to say, rouse themselves, and there is then repeated in them an action similar to the action which evoked their first arising. So if something comes in that makes you angry, that embeds in you, and then when something completely different makes you angry, those old memories of becoming angry arise in you, or that old energy there arises again. So this is where people, and you can kind of get lost in like an anger circle or a depression spiral or a goon cycle, and you just doom scroll. You'd like doom scroll fashion models on Instagram or something. I don't know what kids do nowadays. Or TikTok. It's like lust, depression, and anger are these like the three biggest impressions embedded in the kids these days. It's misery loves company, but it's within you. It's it's an impression comes in and embeds something in you. And then that comes up whenever a similar impression comes as well. That's an interesting reflection. Craig says, when someone freaks out about you asking them to pass the salt, it's not about the salt. And it is this repetition of previously perceived impressions engendering what is called association. So he's talking about association is big here, because mental association is the biggest reason why we find it hard to meditate. Because you sit down, you close your eyes, and you get into a state, and then a car passes by, or like say you hear ambulance sirens in the distance, an impression comes in, and immediately your mind associates like ambulance sirens, and then you like think of the TV show like Law and Order, because that was the last time you heard, what is it, police sirens, and you think of that episode and you're like, man, Ice-T, what is he still acting in that show? I haven't seen that show in ages. And then it's like, and then you think about rap, and then you're thinking about the last time you listened to the song, and then you're listening to it with a friend, and then you think about what that friend did. Mental associations. Every single impression creates a mental association. So, that's a very interesting question, another guy. This is why, and that's another reason, that's another thing, we gotta, yeah, everyone's talking now. Yeah, so Kimberly's saying that's why I like meditation focusing on sound. This is a big thing. If you study Raja Yoga, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi, a lot of people talk about dharana, dhyana, samadhi. Pratyahara is where it's at, dog. Pratyahara is where it's at. You know, asana, relax. Pranayama, you do some breathing exercises, keeps you good. Pratyahara is interesting. Pratyahara is called withdrawing from the senses. In the Western term, it's kind of like in the cloud of unknowing, when they say you must stand upon the cloud of forgetting and forget the world before you can look up to the cloud of unknowing. That's what pratyahara is. Pratyahara is important. And one of the meditations, one of the techniques or clues they give for pratyahara is to meditate with sound. And the whole kind of thing is you just listen to the sounds around you and you try to kind of extend your hearing as far as you can away. And it's like something may try to distract you, but you unhook your attention from whatever distracts you, from your thoughts, from other sounds, but put it back on that sound, like a bell in the distance or wind or something. And it's hard because sounds sometimes aren't consistent. So it's like it goes around and then you have to be there patiently waiting, listening for that sound to arise again if it's like birds in the morning. And you're daredevil maxing. Exactly, you're daredevil maxing. And you're using the sense of sound, the listening, to try and unhook your mind from all the impressions, all of the memories, all of the impulses, to just put it on one place. And then once your mind is focused on that one thing, then you unhook it, then you remove that support of your meditation. You unhook from that and you just sit on either a single point, like the candle flame that you're meditating on, the symbol you're meditating on, or the point inside you that you usually focus on. And that's how you get into dharana, absorption. And then I like to say, the way I interpret it is dharana, dhyana, samadhi are, according to the sutras. I go back to the sutras. The sutras basically say they're the same thing, just different degrees, just different, qualities, different levels. So it's like, this is how you cultivate that. But it's so meditation on sound is very important. I'm very pro meditating using sound, 100%. 100%. But this is the thing that we're talking about here, is also these impressions that are embedded within you. They will also kind of, they are embedded within you, so they kind of release sometimes. And that's also what distracts us. In meditation, it's like if you start getting somewhere in meditation, the thoughts start really churning. Memories really start churning. And it's hard when memories arise, especially memories that have emotional content embedded on them, because then it's like, oh, what did she say? How could she say that? Oh, I can't believe that happened. It takes everything within you to not, and it's hard because it's like, if you really get into something like, oh, I can't believe they said that, you're grasping. But if you're also being like, oh, and turning away, cringing, I can't believe what happened in high school, cringe, look away, that's also a reaction. It's to not cringe away and to not grasp, but to just be able to let it be, and then just go back to the sound. Just place your attention and to release, to continue relaxing and to placing your attention on the other thing while this process just releases. That's super difficult. And it seems like impressions get released via this. Psychic knots of energy get released via this process. But, it takes time, and it's not like you do that in one hit and then it all just gets released. It's like you have to be consistent with that and do it for long periods of time. It's not just, but I meditated an hour a day. Samsara's like, I don't care, and we'll just keep elbow fisting you on the ground. So self-remembering, will this do the same thing? To a degree, but you got to be able to self-remember, and that's the problem. But so Gurdjieff is talking about this. Let's see what he says about it, what process he says. Let's see what solution he comes up with. And it is this repetition of previously perceived impressions engendering what is called association. And the parts of this repetition which enter the field of a man's attention that together condition what is termed memory. Big peepee here. So he's talking about memory. He is talking about memory here. So are we slaves to memory? We are assaulted by memory when we try to meditate. The past assaults us, and we must defend against it, guard against the memory. Memory of the average man, in comparison with the memory of a man harmoniously perfected, is a very, very imperfect adaptation for his utilization during his responsible life of his previously perceived store of impressions. Okay, hello. His responsible life of his previously... Okay, so stored impressions. For a second there, I thought he was saying past life memories, he stored previously in another life, but I think it's no, as in the impressions he stored before, just previously in general. Huh. So I'm just reading out Tuition's message. That's a cool 80s rock line. Yeah, and another guy, I don't know. I think it's similar. But I gotta get through this. We gotta get through this. With the aid of memory, the average man, from among impressions previously perceived, can make use of, and, so to say, keep track of only a very small part of his whole store of impressions. Whereas, the memory proper to the real man keeps track of all his impressions. Hold on a second. So with the aid of the average man, among his impressions previously perceived, can make use of, and to so say, keep a track of only a very small part of his whole store of impressions. Whereas the memory of a real man the memory proper to the real man keeps track of all his impressions without exception, whenever they may have been perceived. So basically he's saying, someone who is a perfected man has, like, eidetic memory. Is that how you pronounce that? Eidetic memory. Sorry, thought that said memory. Yeah. Often referred to as photographic memory. Because the whole thing about memory is, it's not people like, I've got a bad memory. No, you don't. Memory isn't like you put stuff in and then something else comes out. I remember another Joe Rogan podcast with a dream scientist, and he was saying something like, when you study dreams, there's a phenomena where people will wake up and they forget their dreams, but then they're doing something throughout their day, and the thing that they're doing throughout their day, they happen to do in their dream, and doing it in the day brings back the memory of the dream. So it's like, that actually happened to me once. I remember I was doing something, I can't remember what the repeat, I was in an airport bookshop, like I was flying somewhere, and I think I looked at a book, and then it said something, and I was thinking about something in my mind, like in relation to that, but then it reminded me of something in a dream. I was arguing with someone in a dream, and my argument, I was like arguing for religion, and I think I was saying something like, yeah, but because I think I was in a dream, I was arguing with someone, and they were like an atheist, and they were saying how religion is a degeneration or a disease or something, and it's the lesser evolved people are the religious people, and I was defending it and saying something like, yeah, but monkeys don't have religion, but if a whole bunch of monkeys got together and started organizing their society and made a caste system with priests and started building altars to a banana god, yeah, it's silly, but you wouldn't say they're devolved. You'd say they're elaborating. And that argument, this never happened physically. This happened in a dream, and I completely forgot it. And then, like, it just came back to me. I must have been in, like, an airport. I must have been looking at a book, like, you know, The God Delusion or something, in, like, an airport bookshop. And that memory just came back full from the back of my mind, just hit the front of my head. I was like, whoa. But it's like, the whole point of that is, memory isn't a storage issue. It's an access issue. And this is what Gurdjieff is saying. Sorry to get that whole, I like over-explanation there. Over-explanation on that tangent. Memory isn't a storage issue, it's an access issue. That's what I want to say. Not a storage issue, access issue. And that's what Gurdjieff is saying. You have an unlimited storage supply, basically. You've got unlimited film. You're just going to record impressions forever. It's about the ability to access them. This is a problem with consciousness. Normal people are just disorganized within themselves, and their consciousness doesn't have the ability to go and access that thing. But a proper man with order within him can just access anything at any time. He can command the memory to come, and it will just come out of the unconscious, out of the subconsciousness into the consciousness in his head. I recently learned it's rare for anyone to have a cell phone in their dream, and I found that interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, that is interesting. I think, and so this is the problem as well. It's like, people that really hammer like learning things from rote isn't real learning. But it's not that learning things from rote is bad. It's like, there is something to say for trying to learn something. trying to learn something via rote, because then you realize how bad you are at memorizing things. Have you ever tried to memorize a poem and then speak it out to someone without looking? It's like you can read it, and it's like, I read it, it's right there. And then just take your eyes away and try to say it. It's like, even if you say it out loud, it's like, how the frick is it not there? It's almost like blows your mind how there's this disconnect. And it can take a while to get back into you, but it's like, this is the thing. This is why I think theater is esoteric, or at one point was like a connected to the esoteric occult world. Because what is theater? In theater, you're acting, your body has to be in a specific way. Your, Alexander technique, posture, it's all proper. The look, that's the motor cylinder. But there's also the emotionality. You're acting, you're full of, passion. There's the emotional cylinder, but also you have to read your lines and you have to memorize all of them. And so theater, there's something about theater and acting. And, going back to in Beelzebub's Tales, there was that chapter on art. Something about acting, especially improv acting, because there you don't have any lines, but you basically have to emote with your body, your emotional cylinder, and you have to pull a story out of nowhere. And it's like, and you also have to hear what someone else says, interpret what they say, and then react to that without a script, just off the fly. It's like there's something about that just there's something fourth way about that. You know what I mean? Are you getting what I'm saying? You getting what I'm picking up? But anyway, remembering lines. That's why I think Amon Ra mentioned Freemasonry before. I kind of think Freemasonry is important in that sense for the Western esoteric tradition, because they do rituals, but you're not allowed to look at the book. And there's huge lines you have to memorize. And it's not just memorizing and just speaking them out, but like the best ritual workers are people who can put emotion in. And you got to be in specific places in like a Masonic lodge. And sometimes you have to hold certain devices like a sword or a staff or something. So it's this, yeah, exactly, another guy, the acting method. In acting a certain way, it creates a psychic structure that can contain certain things, certain information, certain knowledge. If you, I gotta, memorize. This is why it's like I would say Freemasonry is very interesting for the Western tradition, because it's like, say that there's a specific position you need to be in. It's like, I need to be the warden today. And then it's like, so you act as if you were a warden. And in acting, it creates a psychic structure, and that psychic structure can then call to the memories, the information that you need more easily. Being instead of becoming, exactly. But you're switching into different states of being. It's very interesting. Ceremonial magic uses all the centers. Exactly, Ghoul, exactly. So it's like this acting thing. You act as a being, and then acting in that way calls to the essence of that thing, and you incarnate the essence of that, and it gets added to your being. Exactly. The characteristics. God damn it, another guy. This is why Lord of Mysteries is actually kind of esoteric. For real, for real. Just me and another guy going hype over light novels. Now, let's get back to Beelzebub's Tales, the biggest light novel of them all. It's not, Beelzebub's Tales is a heavy novel, actually. So whenever keeps track of all his impressions without exception, whenever they may have been perceived. So that's interesting. It's not only can he access all his memories, but he even knows when they were perceived. You know how like sometimes you're like, oh, I went to Disneyland. Was that in 94 or 95? It's like, it's not just memorizing it, but also remembering when the memory itself arrived and found its place within you. That's the other thing. It's not, it's like, this is the double level. A double level if you think about it. That's crazy. Not just being able to call a specific thing, but remembering when it was first placed within you. Mwah. Many experiments have been made, and it has been established with indubitable exactitude that every man in definite states has. For example, in the state of a certain stage of hypnotism, can remember to the most minute particular everything that has ever happened to him. He can remember all the details of the surroundings and the faces and voices of the people around him, even those of the first days of his life, when he was still according to people's notions and unconscious being. So very interesting. Gurdjieff is relating to hypnosis again. That is a thing they found in studies. And this is the thing about hypnosis, interesting. They've even found people with like split personalities can learn different, will just have a different language or something, or someone who doesn't know a language, and you can be like, put them under hypnosis and be like, talk Swedish now, and they'll just do it. Gurdjieff isn't getting into that level, but he's getting into some interesting levels here. Doomy Speezy in the chat. Hello. Hello, Domi. Oh, Outtuition says there's a guy like that who's a detective in the anime Monster, if I remember right. I started watching Monster years ago and like never finished. Oh, it was just the wrong time to start watching it. But ever since then, everyone's been like, Monster is one of the greatest animes of all time. And I'm like, God damn it. God damn it. I missed my chance to watch it. Yeah, so we all have this genius within us. We all have a genius within us. We need to work in a specific way to awaken, to order ourselves. Because it's not just about having this higher thing. It's about bringing the higher thing, and there shouldn't be a higher and a lower. Remove that. There should just be the thing in and of itself. Oh, Dummy says you're 75% through the Red Line. Red Line is based. Red Line is such a good book. So when man is in one of these states, hypnotic states, it is possible artificially to make even the reals hidden in the most obscure corners of the mechanism start working. But it often happens that these reels begin to unwind of themselves under the influence of some overt or hidden shock evoked by some experiencing. That's interesting. So man can hide memories from himself, but a shock can reveal them. Manchurian Candidate. This is what MK Ultra is all about, baby. Suppressing memories and then unlocking them, whereupon there suddenly rise up before the man long forgotten scenes, picturings, faces, and so on. It's very interesting. Being able to connect hypnotisms and chakras is pretty interesting. Says another guy. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Sharan, baby. Hell yeah. Yeah, there's that thing on Sharan, how like he was MK Ultra hypnotized. Oh my God. At this point, so Gurdjieff predicted all of this. At this point, I interrupted the lecturer and considered it opportune to make the following addition. The addition. Such is the ordinary average man, an unconscious slave entirely at the service of all universal purposes, which are alien to his own personal individuality. We may live through all his years. He may live through all his years as he is, and as such be destroyed forever. But at the same time, great nature has given him the possibility of being not merely a blind tool entirely at the service of all these universal objective purposes, but while serving her and actualizing what is foreordained for him, which is the lot of every breathing creature of working at the same time also for himself, for his own egoistic individuality. And egoistic, in this case, he's using it more like Freud, as in just the self-individuality. The single individuality itself can work to actualize, so it's not completely a blind tool that's going to be destroyed after death. This possibility was given also for service to the common purpose, owing to the fact that for the equilibrium of these objective laws, such relatively liberated people are necessary. Yes, such liberated people are necessary. Interesting. So it's necessary for liberation to take place. Although the said liberation is possible, nevertheless, whether any particular man has the chance to attain it, this is difficult to say. There are a mass of reasons which may not permit it, and moreover, which in most cases depend neither upon us personally nor upon great laws, but only upon the various accidental conditions of our arising and formation, of which the chief are heredity and the conditions under which the process of our preparatory age flows. It is just these uncontrollable conditions which may not permit this liberation. So he's basically saying your hereditary conditions, so maybe if you're born with disabilities, or like you're born Chinese, no, I'm just kidding. Maybe because there is this whole thing he says about development. It's like if you're, I guess born, completely disabled, like your hormone system doesn't work and you're just in pain all the time or something, or you're kind of screwed. But also your preparatory age. So what happens to you in high school depends on how your likelihood of attaining. Homeschool your kids. Parents, homeschool your kids. I guess that's why Steiner became so anal about like raising kids properly. It's very interesting. The chief difficulty in the way of liberation from the whole entire slavery consists in this, that it is necessary with an intention issuing from one's own initiative and persistence and sustained by one's own efforts, that is to say, not by another's will. So in the end, even though you do group work, it can't be because of the group. It can't be because of the guru. It has to be your own will. But by one's own, to obtain the eradication from one's presence both of the already fixed consequences of certain properties of that something in our forefathers called the Organkunde-Buffer, as well as of the predisposition to those consequences which might again arise. Schooling and its consequences have been a disaster. Homeschooling seems the right way, but what about the child's social life? Homeschooling groups. Because this is the thing, when people say, when I say homeschooling, a lot of people have this wrong concept that it's just like the parents with a Bible and you're teaching your kids nothing. But it's like, no, homeschool. There are homeschooling groups that you go to where like-minded parents all come together. The only problem with homeschooling groups is you got to find a good one, and you got to find a good one where there's a lady who has some backbone, because there are also the kind of parents that don't give a shit, and they have rotten kids that they drop off to homeschool groups because you're basically, it's free daycare. Instead of paying $120 for daycare, they just drop it off at these like shit kids at your house, then ruin it for everyone else. So it's like, fuck those people. But if you find a good group with parents that you gel with, and the kids, really, you want to do it for your kids. So it's like, you want to find a good group where your kid is friends with all the other kids or gets along with the other kids. But also the golden one is then when you also find it when the parents click as well. And I mean, when I say homeschooling, I mean, let's face it, fellas, a group where your wife clicks with the other mums. That's the thing. That's the golden. It doesn't matter. That's us dads. We'll get along. We'll get along, whatever. But it's, if you find a homeschool group where your kid kind of gets along with the other kids and all the mums click, because all the mums then, when all the mums like sync up, then they all like do extracurricular things, and then one will start an art group and one will start a science group, and it just kind of works. It just kind of works. And then it's not just one mum teaching everything. It's like one mum, and there'll even be like a mum who is a teacher, and she, or used to like, or they'll have a grandmother who is a retired school teacher, and she'll do a science class and things like that. It's actually, homeschooling groups are actually based. They're really good for kids. In one of your, Domi says, in one of your vids, you mentioned John Crowley's Egypt novels, huge influence on my own writing. Oh, do you think he's initiated? I didn't mention I don't think I mentioned his Egypt novels, but yeah, John Crowley, I only know about him because he made his translation of the Alchemical Wedding of Kristen Rosenkrantz, and I was like, oh damn. And so I read him, and I read his introduction and his take and his footnotes, and he seemed really interesting. But then you look, and he's just a novelist. But everyone says his novels are like mind-blowing, are amazing, or like, you know, what's the Little Big is one of his books, and people like, it's this 500-page book, and it's completely confusing, and you'll have no idea what's going on. But keep reading, and then when there's a talking fish, it'll just make sense, and it'll be the best book you've ever read. And you'll be like, what? Huh? And you get that description, and you're like, what? So he seems like an amazing author. And I would love to read his books, but I have no idea where he comes from, and where did he come from? Where did he go? John Crowley, a really unfortunate last name, but also, I mean, you know, the artist he got, if you read his Alchemical Wedding book, his translation of the Kristen Rosenkrantz's Chemical Wedding, there's an artist in that book, and when you read the description of the artist in the back, it's kind of like, oh, he found someone who's an actual descendant of Robert Flood to do the art for his book, and you're like, bruh, what the hell's going on here? There's some weird hermetic circle around John Crowley. For real. I don't know if he's a member of an official order, but there's something, he's doing something. He's doing something for real. So the fact that he's a big boy and he's influenced you, 100% esoteric. 100%. What was that? Oh. Kimberly says 1 and 1 on the way. Congrats. Congratulations, Kimberly. Oh, another guy says, didn't even think such groups existed, lol. Yeah, they exist. We exist. Best homeschoolers in the balls. I don't know about that, Nulu. Homeschooling is stored in the ball. Homeschooling is stored in the friends. Maybe the real homeschooling is the friends we made along the way. Name is John Alistair Crowley. No, it's just John Crowley. It's so ironic that his last name is Crowley, but he seems to genuinely be a really interesting person. Outtuition says, my best friend was messed up by being homeschooled all the way up until high school. His dad was traveling past. So this is the bad side of homeschooling, when it's like really weird and brutal, and it's like, yeah, completely understandable. So this is the thing. I remember I had a friend who, she wasn't a homeschooler. She was a part of the schooling system, of the board that goes out and checks people that they're homeschooling kids. And so she was like a regulator or something. And she was saying how like this is kids who are schooled normally in high school. And then she said, with homeschool, there are good parents and bad parents. Bad parents are here. The kids that they raise would have been better off in high school for real. But then she's like, and then there's the good parents. It's like, when you get good parents, good groups that homeschool kids, those kids are like completely above the public education system. She's like, it's like day and night. It's like, it sucks and that's why the regulator, she's got her job as a regulator. It's like she had the job as a regulator. I think she moved to somewhere else and then just went back to schooling. But it's like, it sucks that there are some bad parents, and it's like, that's why there are regulators. That's why, the government tries to get involved, although, I don't really approve of that. But like, the ones that are good are like so unbelievably above everyone else. It's like, to force them to go to high school is... But yeah, no, 100% there are also horror stories where it's like, oh, probably better off if you did go to school. Oh, damn, Nulu. Yeah, my friend's girlfriend was homeschooled and they taught her Latin and college-level maths by senior year. Based. And that's the other thing in homeschool is, if someone has an unusual kind of thing in one direction, you can just cultivate it and they'll just blast in that direction. A lot of kids are just natural autists, that if they're interested in something and you have the food for them and you don't restrict them, they will develop in that direction really in a bang. One more page until 10 pages have been read. Heartbroken, another guy. Yeah, I know. We're just going off on tangents, baby. We're just going off on tangents. Okay, let's finish this page, guys. Let's finish this page. So in order that you should have at least an approximate understanding of this strange organ with its properties and also of the manifestations in ourselves, of the consequences of these properties, we must dwell a little longer upon this question and speak about it in somewhat greater detail. Hey Akash, good morning. Great nature, in her foresight, and for many important reasons, about which theoretical explorations will be given in later lectures. That's funny because it's the end of the book, bruh. Was constrained to a place within the common presences of our remote ancestors. Just such an organ, thanks to the engendering properties of which they might be protected from the possibility of seeing and feeling anything as it proceeds in reality. Hold on, what is he even saying there? Great nature in her foresight, and for many important reasons, was constrained to place within the common presences of our ancestors just such an organ, engendering properties which might be protected from the possibility of seeing, feeling. Oh, he's talking about a buffer, maybe. Although this organ was later removed, also by great nature from their common presences, yet owing to a cosmic law expressed by the words, the assimilation of the results of oft-repeated acts, according to which law, from the frequent repetition of one and the same act, there arises in every world concentration, under certain conditions, a predisposition to produce similar results. This law-confirmable predisposition, which arose in our forefathers, was transmitted by heredity from generation to generation, so that when their descendants in the process of their ordinary existence established numerous conditions which proved to be congenial for the said law-conformableness, from that time on the consequences of the various properties of this organ arose in them, and being assimilated, owing to the transmission by heredity from generation to generation, they ultimately acquired almost the same manifestations as those of their ancestors. Bruh. So is he just talking about the Kunda buffer again? What the hell's going on? An approximate understanding of the manifestations in ourselves of these consequences may be derived from a further fact perfectly intelligible to our reason and beyond any doubt whatever. That was a frickin' sentence, dog. All of us people are mortal and every man may die at any moment. But he didn't say what the organ was. That's what... I hate it when he does that. I hate it when he does that. He's trying to trip us up. Now the question arises, can a man really picture to himself, and so to say experience in his consciousness the process of his own death? No. His own death and the experiencing of this process a man can never, however he may wish, picture to himself. A contemporary, ordinary man can picture to himself the death of another, though even this not fully. He can picture to himself, for instance, that a certain Mr. Smith leaves the theatre and, crossing the street, falls beneath an automobile and is crushed to death. Well, Gurdjieff was a fan of Master and the Margarita. Nah, just kidding. Or that a signboard blown down by the winds falls on the head of Mr. Jones, who happened to be passing by, and kills him on the spot. Lamau. Now we're getting slapstick. Or that Mr. Brown, having eaten a bad crayfish, gets poisoned and no one being able to say him dies the very next day. Lamau. Anyone can easily picture all of these, but can the average man contemplate the same possibility for himself? What is he even talking about? Hold on. 409. Anyway, we're getting to the hour and a half here. We've been off on some tangents. Let's get back to it next week, guys. Let's do it next week. Next week we'll finish it for sure. For sure, guys. Only 20 more pages, guys. We'll make it, guys. Trust me, guys. Just one more week. One more week, 2 more weeks. Thank you for coming, everybody. Thank you for joining. See y'all in the next one. Bye-bye.